Hi everyone, my name is Sarah and welcome back to my channel, and today I'm going to be bringing you a spoiler-free review of When No One Is Watching by Alyssa Cole. So Alyssa Cole is most commonly known for her romance writing, but this is her first foray into thriller. The main plot of When No One Is Watching is that our main character, Sydney, lives in a neighborhood in Brooklyn that is slowly being gentrified. Her neighbors are slowly leaving and new people are moving in. There's a lot of for sale signs. There's a lot of just basic gentrification that's happening. At the same time, she's dealing with a lot in her own personal life, with her mother being sick and her divorce and kind of the mental toll that those things are taking on her, as well as the feeling that her sort of safe place, the neighborhood she grew up in, is changing at such a rapid pace she can't keep up with. So Sydney ends up wanting to build a sort of walking tour that details the history of the neighborhood and a little bit in places around Brooklyn that other walking tours don't want to talk about because it is a racist history and it is uncomfortable for people to talk about. During her sort of research stage, all of her neighbors are very supportive of her and end up suggesting that one of the new neighbors, Theo, helps her as well. Throughout the research, they're sort of starting to uncover a lot more sinister things that they didn't expect perhaps or didn't particularly know about, and it's throughout their research that they're sort of uncovering more of what's happening around the gentrification of Sydney's own neighborhood. So since this is spoiler free, I don't want to say much more about the plot without giving anything away. This is Alyssa Cole's first foray into writing thrillers. She is most known for her romance novels, and I think she absolutely nails a lot of the elements of thrillers. She's an incredibly talented writer on her own, but the way that she is able to maintain this steady tension throughout the entire novel is genius. And I think the tension throughout the entire story of feeling like something more is happening but not really being able to pinpoint exactly what's happening, or perhaps trying to talk yourself out of what you think might be happening, is incredibly prevalent. And I think a lot of that is down to Sydney as a character herself. She is one of my favorite characters I've read about in a while. She is so easy to root for, and you just want her to be you just kind of want her to be okay. And there's a lot of digging into the sort of psychological aspects of her history and her mental health, and how her own mental health has been used against her in the past. And how it's sort of being used against her in the present as well in some respects. So the characters of this, Theo and Sydney, are pretty great. I liked Sydney a little bit more than Theo, but I think the other thing that Cole does really well in this book is the sort of cast of characters around them are also incredibly great. They feel like real people. They feel like they have been fleshed out in a lot of ways. It feels like a community. It feels like a neighborhood. And I think that's really helps with the feelings that Cole is trying to get across in this book. Now, while I personally liked the pacing for most of the book, I felt like the slower pacing going up until the end worked very well, because again, it is maintaining that tension throughout the book. It's also really maintaining a sort of character introspection throughout it as well. I do understand that some people have an issue with the ending and feeling like it is too fast-paced compared to the rest of the novel. I can see that, and I sort of feel that to some extent, but I don't really know how else it could have played out. I think it had to be a very quick ending. It had to be a very quick wrap up, because we spent so much time building up to it that there really wasn't a way for it to be a long drawn out thing. I absolutely loved this book. I felt like the tension was good, the narrative was good, the characters were great. The characters were really intriguing and really interesting to watch. I loved the sense of community. I felt like the pacing worked really well for most of the book. The pacing at the end could have been tightened up a little bit, or perhaps evened out throughout the rest of the book. But overall, I think this was a fantastic book. It's a fantastic thriller. It's a character dive. It is a very important commentary on racism and capitalism and gentrification. And I'm very hopeful that Alyssa Cole writes more thrillers in the future. And I think this is a very interesting sort of thriller, because it's not exactly what people are expecting when they go into a traditional thriller, in a specific sense of there's not necessarily a murder plot, there's not necessarily a murder that we need to solve. It's a little bit bigger, it's a little bit more personal, And while I know some people didn't particularly like it, I think the problem is they went in expecting something different. I think they went in expecting a traditional thriller of a murder plot, or we have to solve this crime, or someone's being accused of something that they didn't do, or there's a serial killer on the loose, or whatever your thriller is. And I think some people have just forgotten that thrillers are just invoking the specific emotions surrounding a thriller. Jessie from Bowties and Books did a fantastic video on this particular subject in a very much reference to Winona's Watching, which I will link below because you should definitely check out their video. But overall, I think this is a fantastic book. This is an excellent first try at thrillers, and I am incredibly excited to see what Alyssa Cole comes out with next. Let me know in the comments below if you've read this book and what your thoughts were, and if there's any other thrillers or books in general that you feel like are similar to this book. And as always, thank you all so much for watching, and I hope that you have a fantastic day.